Anyone who tries to tell you different is your enemy. Do you know that we don't even see the simplest of things? Look at this simple fact. Not a theory, not a religious paragraph in a book, but a very simple fact that the enemy always is in my own mind. Now, you've heard that before, you've read it in a book. Then how come you have exterior enemies? How come there are people who can thwart you? How come there are people who can make you uncomfortable, people who are taking things away from you? How come Mama and Papa's, the very sound of their name can still make you fearful and cow you and make you hate them too? Isn't it dreadful? The enemy is so vague. You can't just double up your fist and poke him because you don't know what direction to poke him. And so what do? Poke every direction, hoping we'll have a lucky break. Enemy. Write down a sentence, please. Right discipline is a part of right instruction. Right discipline is a part of right instruction. Take the word discipline and let's see where it takes us. Very few of us can take much discipline from the outside, and we can't take very much from inside either. This is why it's quite necessary, if we're going to change the kind of people we are inwardly, why it is quite necessary at the start to take discipline from the outside. So you hear discipline of any kind. I'm talking about not just instruction itself, but the sharpness that goes with it sometimes, the reprimand, the giving you work exercises, giving you orders to do this or to don't do that. When you are given these, it is your duty as part of your inner work to look at every order, every discipline you're given, and try to see whether it conforms to what is right in you. This is very necessary and a very intelligent act, because without that, you will never be able to find out what is right from yourself. If we're just going to follow other people's orders because they sound authoritative or they've read a lot of books, if we're going to just take someone's word for how our lives should be lived, we're going to live in the same swamp that they live in, and both of us lying to each other and calling it a nice, pleasant little meadow. You're never asked to swallow discipline whole. You're asked to use your basic intelligence to see what it's all about. And you add the other ingredients to the discipline that is given to you, such as a certain amount of humility, such as a certain amount of weariness with your life as it is, and you'll be able to see that you're not submitting yourself to another ego power such as yours is inside, but submitting yourself to something that is right, that can get rid of this ego domination that we have and get rid of the pain that goes with it. So discipline is absolutely necessary. Now, ever since we've had these classes, all of you, to one degree or another, have been given disciplines of various kinds. Very, very simple ones to start with. You're told to arrive on time. You're told to attend every meeting that it's at all possible for you to do. You're told to pay attention throughout the meeting and not let your attention be distracted by someone who comes in the door late, or by your own wandering thoughts, or by wondering about something at home. You're all given these very basic elementary disciplines. If you can follow the lower ones, you will then qualify yourselves for taking the higher ones. the far more difficult ones, where you don't want to listen or follow them at all. Right in this class, you can see for yourself, if you watch your own self in these classes, that you fall into various classifications, one of several classifications for taking discipline. Some of you, for example, don't need very much discipline as far as this class is concerned. You come all the time, you do pay attention. You behave properly, you have good manners here. Not too much there. Others of you, not just in this class, but in your private life where it affects the class, have been given definite instructions as to how to behave, what to do in order to find yourself. And what a crashing blow this has been to some of you. You find that you can't obey at all. You have to be herded around like sheep, because you're not even aware that you've wandered out of the field and going to fall into the swamp. So maybe it's a pretty good idea if occasionally you are yelled at, if you're told, watch out where you're going. So isn't that nice to know that someone outside of yourself, not me personally, but the truth, can be the good shepherd that'll keep us from falling into the swamp? There are other classes of people, and these overlap and intermingle, you should understand. There are other classes of people, maybe some right in this room. You have to judge. Some in this room, some who have come here once or twice, who can take no discipline whatever. Therefore, they're unteachable, they're incapable of learning, incapable of doing anything but following their own sickness, their own pains, their own hatreds, and their own hostilities, and just living with that. That is what they have chosen. Watch yourself carefully in relation to the subject of discipline, and see in very small ways of how you're not submitting to it in this room. If my memory was that good, I could give you 100 instructions that you have been given here. For example, just for example, you've been told to suddenly of yourself, and I'll do it now, just relax. Drop your jaw a little bit and let your hands go loose. See? Now you followed exterior orders on that, and that's fine. Why didn't you do it by yourself? Why didn't you remember yourself and do it all by yourself, and perhaps a dozen other things that you were told? If you resist discipline, if you resent it, no learning is possible. As I look at you and I can see that you can begin to take a little more, you will be given it. Any severe instances of bad behavior in the class, or not following the few class rules, which we don't have too many of, any severe deviation from that, and you will be told about it very severely if there is still a chance for you. I'm not going to waste my time talking to you if you don't want it. This includes every one of you here. Places where you don't want to hear, where you're incapable of hearing, I don't say a word. There's still hope for you if you're reprimanded when I let you go. I'm speaking personally now. If and when I let you go, there's no hope for you. You'll just have to wander until you want to come back and put yourself under the proper discipline of truth. Now, where can you give yourself right orders and make yourself obey them? A right order to yourself being, whatever happened, I'm going to use it. Whatever happened, I'm going to use it properly. I'm going to use it to find out, first of all, what mechanical force took me over to make me behave badly. I'm going to understand the situation in order to understand why I was taken over and not living for my real self. You know, I'll tell you something very interesting, very advanced, but very interesting. When you reach the point, and this all very much connects with discipline, when you reach the point where you're able to be awake, aware, conscious for a while, even for short periods of time, even standing up here on Sundays and giving your talk, you're standing up there and you've achieved a certain amount of freedom from your mechanical self. And you can feel that you're talking to the people and yet are one with them, that there's no one to impress, no hostile face out there that you have to defend yourself against. And you can feel the rightness of your state. All right. But you're still not strong enough to keep yourself awake all the time. You'll find this interesting, Jim. All of a sudden, right in the middle of your talk, because you're not able to keep awake all the time, right in the middle of it, you will feel a loss. You will feel yourself wandering. You feel as if, to use the word, as if the spirit has left you. But being a worker, you can be aware of this state where you're not there, not talking fully and wholly, but are rambling on sort of that will bring you back. This is indescribable, but you will see as you practice. Or not just giving a talk. You're talking with someone in your home, and you're working on yourself all the time. You're not identifying with their face, with their age. You're not wanting anything at all from them. And all of a sudden, you'll catch yourself going into a little bit of a mechanical rambling, of course, which will revolve around you, around your life, what you want, what you're going to get. If you've been disciplining yourself properly all along, right in the middle of a sentence, even if you have visual alertness, you'll be able to look at that man's or that woman's face, and you'll see that they are bored with you, and they're bored with you because you're rambling on about yourself. That very observation of them connected with your inner observation will stop you right in the middle of a sentence, and you'll be awake again for a while. It's a fascinating experience to see yourself be quite aware of what you're doing. You know you're talking. You can hear the sound of your voice. You know where your hands are. You know whether they're paying attention or not. And then if you go to sleep a little bit, you'll be able to feel yourself falling off, and you'll say no with a big exclamation point after it, and that will wake you up and bring you back to where you should be all at once. All this comes through paying attention to the rules, following them, wanting to be out of the trap more than you want anything else. Another discipline you could work on is to really actually see, let me start over, to see your actual motives for doing something. To see a real motive, an actual motive, is to make you free of it if it is a false one. If you have a wrong motive at all, the very seeing of it will free you of the pain and the punishment of it. You have a motive to get revenge on someone, mentally, verbally, or whatever, and you're able to catch yourself wandering off into this state of sleep where you're actually beginning to enjoy getting revenge on someone, thinking bad thoughts on them. You catch yourself and cut those off all at once, and you see what your motive was. The minute you see it, you're free of it. Isn't that nice? Everything that we do in this class, and you working out there, brings you back to that glorious word, which I use deliberately, that glorious state where you are doing what you really want to do. instead of wasting your time and wasting your life in foolishness, which you call friendship, which you call sociality, even maybe what you call spiritual studies. You're doing what you really want to do. And then you can have spiritual studies here and at home and walking down the street and at the office too, can't you? Isn't that what you really want to do? Spiritual studies that get us out of the self-made trap. All right? Discipline yourself to a sudden switch in subject and see what you can get. I'll start at the very beginning with fundamental sentences. Watch your reaction to this now, and then we'll follow it. Pay attention, discipline. There is no permanent self. There is no permanent self. You have no permanent self. I have no permanent self at all. You call yourself by a certain name, and you have all your activities and what you're going to do tomorrow and what you did last year. And you're a certain kind of a person, male, female, French, British, whatever. There is no permanent self because there are no permanent thoughts to make them permanent. There is no permanent self because there are no permanent thoughts to make them permanent. All right? Have you ever just sat back sometime and watched your own thoughts as they come up in your mind, not trying to guide them, not doing a thing with them? Just sit back. You do it someday. You get all alone in the house. Shut the TV off. No cigarettes, no coffee. Just sit there. You don't have to do a thing. You just have to sit there and watch. It'll all be done. Your mind is going to work whether you want it or not. It's going to be in action. Sit there and watch the thought come up. The thought comes up, I have to mow the lawn tomorrow. Fine. The thought, mow lawn, comes up. What happens to it? You don't put it away. Doesn't it go away all by itself? Next thought comes up, I better go shopping before the store closes. Next, that goes away. Next thought comes up, whatever it might be. I'm going to sew my dress or whatever. All these thoughts come up. Now, suppose the thought comes up, I am sad. I am sad, and the emotions agree with it. I'm very sad. The telephone rings, come to our party. Who's sad now? See? What happened to the sad person? The sad person was the description of yourself as being sad. It went away this time because an outside agency took it away. It'll come back, you understand, tomorrow night because you didn't take it away yourself by understanding your thoughts and letting them fade out. That thought was simply suspended over in a corner, and tomorrow night when the party's over, it'll come back and you'll say, oh, I'm sad again tonight. All right. If we can understand that thoughts rise by themselves, appear, we become aware of them, do we not, if we're watching them? And then they'll fade out by themselves. If they fade out, what happens to either the sad you or the happy you? Or, which are you, the happy you or the sad you? In time we see that we're neither of these because these are simply self-descriptions. I am sad, and then we always add, make it worse, I am sad because I didn't get the raise or whatever the phony reason is for it. That's because we still think there's someone there who would be happy if he got the raise, which is false, of course. Do you see the main point? Because thoughts rise and pass away and give us the idea of someone there. If I could watch myself, so to speak, rise and then pass away, I'd begin to get the idea that there's no permanent self there at all. How nice. How nice. I don't have to strive at all, do I? I don't have to get a thing, do I? Except on the physical level. Do I have to be sad anymore? Do I have to go around trying to find someone who'll make me happy? Or some excitement that'll make me pleased for a little while? I'm free. That's it. What more is there to say? I've seen through the illusion. I've seen through the illusion I had all my life. Then I must keep me going by keeping I thoughts going all day long and all night long which drive me crazy. Now I see how to stop driving myself crazy, which is simply to cease to believe in the pseudo-self, the invented self. Cease to believe in it, and I can cease to believe it when I see that when I let go of the thoughts, it goes away. I supposedly go away with it. Deeper than that, when the thought rises, I can say, I consciously, of course I have to get shopping before the store closes, or there won't be enough food and I'll get hungry. This little present person who presently inhabits a human body had better get to the store, otherwise the physical body will get hungry. So I go, that action arises out of that, right action. I have to mow the lawn, it gets too long. Keep it neat, no problem there. If I don't connect myself with my thoughts, can I ever be anxious over anything? Can I then see quite personally and experimentally what it means to take no thought for tomorrow? Take no thought for tomorrow. Then you know what happens? There's no me in the world at all. No enemies out there at all. I'm one with the whole world. Not poetically, but as a fact. Untouchable. And all my energy is used quite naturally to do daily things, to do anything I want to do. As long as there's no I there, can I hurt myself or hurt you? All right. I now give you an assignment. Very simple. You get all alone by yourself as soon as possible. Tomorrow maybe sometime. All alone. Nothing on. Close the windows. Keep the noise out. And you'll do nothing but just sit there quietly and watch what thoughts go through your mind. See for yourself how it comes up. Recognize it. Refrigerator. Why did refrigerator come up? Because maybe out of the corner of your eye you thought, fine, refrigerator, so what? Then refrigerator fades. Then you think of letter. You got a letter today and it had a little emotion to it. The letter comes up. Just continue to sit there. Don't do anything, but sit there. Pretty soon the letter fades out of your mind. Out of this very fundamental self-work, you can begin to see I thoughts, which is what we're really after. I'm so sad because. I'm so glad because. Both are equal. To be glad is to be sad when it's a thought. Because it's going to come to an end. Because you can't attach events to your I and say this will fulfill me, because they're both in time. The party can't make me happy. There's no one there to be made happy by any event that lives in time. The party's going to be over. My real nature is happy only with eternity. I will ask you tomorrow, as a part of tomorrow's session, what happened as a result of you sitting down quietly, simply watching the arising and the fading of your thoughts. Do you know what this is? This is true religion. This is a true search for God. This is the right road to authentic happiness. This is the end of the pain, the end of the haunting. This is the right direction. Everything else we've tried haven't worked. This will work because it's real. You will change. And you'll know what it means to die daily. You'll know what it means to die secondly. Every second, I mean. Because you've let go, haven't you? See what let go means? Let go of the thought, let go of the feeling. As long as you don't try to hold it, it will go away by itself. It will begin to weaken the intellectual mechanism which keeps what I call me in place and which keeps my misery in place. This little discipline of following the instructions you were just given, this little discipline will be of great value to you. Don't forget it, don't miss it. Sometime between now and tomorrow's class, even if it's just for 3 minutes. You can get alone by yourself for 3 minutes. Sit out in the yard somewhere. Whether we're deeply impressed with it or not, life is really no fun at all unless we're working on ourselves. It can be an illusion of fun, making all that money, going to all those exciting places, living in your own little, tight little daydreams, the love of being negative. It's no fun at all. You know what it is? It's sorrow, and it's fear, and it's resistance, and it's hardness, and it's fury, and it's nightmares, and it's confusion, and it's tears. Right? Right. You want some fun? Obey the disciplines of this class. Don't miss what you could get here, what you can get here, what you've already been given here. This is the bare beginning. What you've heard, every one of you have been coming here for 3 or 4 years. This is the bare beginning of what you could get, of what you can have personally, using personally, consciously, for your life, so that you won't die afraid. All right, we're open for questions or comments. Anyone like to ask a question about anything we talked about, or anything at all?
You said if we watch our thoughts as they come and go, it is the same as searching for God?
Yes, isn't it? Isn't it, Rudy? Wait, it's as clear as the ceiling. No? The ceiling isn't very clear?
What ceiling?
All right. Is self-knowledge beginning to understand the universe also? Or is that too much? Well, let's start farther back. Are you gaining self-knowledge when you watch your thoughts?
Yes.
You're therefore gaining an elementary understanding of how you work, therefore how other people's minds work, therefore how thoughts cause wars, for example. Negative thoughts cause wars. Aren't you beginning to understand the whole business? Aren't you beginning to... Look, if I use the word existence, understand existence, does that make it any better?
No.
Oh. Who will help Rudy? I've come to the end of things. Oh, we're having fun. Well, is this as baffling to the rest of you?
What baffles me at the moment, I think, is because that there is no I, and then I can't figure out how I can observe my thoughts.
Don't complicate it, Rudy. Sit and watch your thoughts. This is beginning to understand your thoughts. Isn't that beginning to understand yourself?
Right.
And therefore the whole business, because you're a representative of the whole business, which you are. All right, let's simplify it. Sitting down quietly and observing your thoughts as they arise and fade away by themselves is a step toward self-knowledge, therefore a step toward understanding truth. Leave the word God out if that throws you.
No, it doesn't. I mean, it doesn't make me feel bad at all if I use the word God. I think it's the watching thoughts that throws me off, because I have never really been able to watch thoughts.
All right, let's find something out. Do any of you here have ideas about who God is? Who has an idea of who God is? Let's see, any hands? What is God like? Whose hand is that? I can't. Oh, what is God like, Zena?
Well, from what I like, I know I'm conditioned as to, I have lots of labels for God, like he runs the universe, keeps, he's the principal and things like that.
Okay. You should know by this time that you can't have an idea about God at all. An idea about God? Where did you get it, by the way? From Sunday school? You didn't like that God very much, did you? Weren't you afraid that kind of a God has enormous power over you and he's watching you take that third piece of candy? And you don't like him looking down watching you take that? Don't you understand that that's simply an idea about God, which is not the same thing as God himself? God is the absence of idea. Now, I toss it off very simply. How many years will it take you to understand that in depth? God is the absence of an idea. If you can't have an idea about God because it's simply your idea, and then you and the man in the next country fight a religious war over whose God is right and all that. If a false God is an idea, then true God must be the absence of description of God. Which means there is no describer. If there's a describer of God, there is duality and delusion. This clear?
Then God is indescribable.
Say that word again.
God is indescribable.
Yes. Yes, please.
Good God is all that exists, all that.
Pardon?
God is all that exists.
All right. God is all that exists. All right.
Well, when in describing the universe or everything, couldn't you be describing God? Creation. I just changed it with your...
You
God
catch the
creation.
signal fast, don't you?
It took me 3 months.
You know, look. Let's change the subject and connect it. When you ask a dodo question, will you please be aware that it is who's asking the question? What mind did it come out of? A clear mind or a muddled mind? Now, I didn't say don't ask the question. I said be aware of where the question came from your mind. Why did you need to ask that question? Why did you need to make that statement? What do you want out of it?
I want to know, I want to find this God.
All right. Is God a word, Chuck?
Yeah.
Huh?
Well, no, there's a being. It's a word, but it's not, you know what I mean?
You think that God is not a word. Go ahead. No.
I was going to say that it's necessary to describe parts of things because on the mechanical level, things do have parts.
Correct.
You use the intellect, you're trying to figure out how the automobile engine is assembled, you're using your thoughts and you describe the parts so that you can assemble the engine. That's not describing God, it's describing parts of things.
All right. We understand that it's good to label, to break things down.
I had a little experience this week that showed me how I'm not aware of my thoughts and how they can be painful and I'm not aware of it. I was washing the dishes and I dropped a glass, and as I dropped the glass, Alan asked me, "What were you thinking?" And it came to me that I was thinking about having cancer, and that's just such a crazy thing because I wasn't even aware that such a thing was embedded in my mind. I don't even know where it came from. But if I had just let it go on in there, I don't know what pain it was causing me.
I mean, the shock of thinking about cancer caused you to drop the glass?
I guess, although I wasn't even aware I was thinking of anything.
Yes. That was a good awakening shock that he gave you then. Yes, Bob.
Your assignment is to get alone and watch what thoughts go through your mind. Do you think that a different series of thoughts will go through our mind at that particular time because we've been asked by you to be aware of them than the ones that during that same period would ordinarily go through your mind?
Sit quietly and watch with just, you can drop the question. Just see what thoughts go through your mind when you sit quietly. You're not going to try to direct them in any direction, you understand? You're just going to let them come up.
I continually hold on to specific thoughts, though.
Why do you hold on to them? Connect with what we talked about, Dottie. Why do you hold on to them? Why do you perpetuate the stream of thought? What are you getting out of it? Does it give you an emotional thrill to keep those thoughts going? Either so-called loving or hateful or exciting, whatever? Huh? Why do you want the feeling? Because it perpetuates what you call Dottie. And you're afraid to give that up.
When she has the answer to that, she will have made a tremendous stride.
Yes, and the rest of us too. Yes.
In the meantime, I experience this too. In my relationship, if I say something and I see that my wife gets angry, I go into a rage. And there are stages of that where I say, I know it. I see it coming, you know, and maybe I already experienced it. And then I say, okay, try to watch it. And I can do that for maybe 20 minutes, but it just keeps building and building, and it just takes off.
You get carried away?
Yes, and I go into a rage. All the while I know, or I think I know, that I'm watching it, but I'm not.
What are you doing to yourself when you're in a rage? All right, let's simplify it. Are you destroying yourself or are you making yourself healthy?
I'm destroying myself.
Do you like that? Do you like to destroy?
No, I don't.
Why do you continue with it?
I don't know, and I ask myself that when I'm doing it.
We are all in love with our self-destruction because that's all we've ever known, and we value the familiarity of our self-destruction. How dumb can we get?
If that happens, it seems to be happening a lot in our relationship. It seems to be kind of coming to a point. And we can almost now look at it and say, this is happening again. We see it happening. And kind of ride through it and realize that we will get on the other side of it, that we do come out of it.
Do you understand what it means not to identify with your anger? Do you understand that? Not to say I to it. It really isn't you. Anytime you say you're angry, you're really boasting. You're boasting that you exist as an independent entity, which is a falsehood. And saying I am mad, and then of course justifying it, is a part of keeping up the delusion that there is you and the person you're fighting with. Here's two non-existent persons fighting hard to keep the delusion going that they exist as separate from each other.
I even go through the motions of saying, drop it, stop. You know, you don't have to be this way. Yet,
All right.
I'm still
No.
caught in it.
It takes a long time, believe me. A long, long time. If you think it only takes one day, then watch how mad you get the next day.
In this exercise you gave us, you said to watch for the I thoughts. And now, the thing about the emotions. Now, if we're not identified with the emotions will happen anyway. Is this correct?
No. As you cease to identify with the I thought, the emotion connected with it will fade equally with the I thought. They're very closely associated. See, there can be very evil emotions that come up to take the side of an angry thought, for example, an irritable thought, or a shameful thought. You'll never understand yourself as long as you shame yourself. You know what shame is? It's false morality. I should have done that. Well, why didn't you? You didn't because you couldn't. And you couldn't because you're not in command. And you're not in command because you think you are, but are not. You're in command when there's no commander. Yes, Alan.
Is an I thought one in which we have personalized the emotion?
Of course, of course. All right, a question. Real honest now. How many of you blab constantly about yourself?
Inside.
Mentally or to others? If you don't have anyone to bore, do you bore yourself? Now, you break that. Why do you wear yourself out? Don't you yawn over those conversations you've gone over 1,000 times? Where'd I see a hand? Chuck.
No, I observed myself when I went into an old environment driving. This was about 2 weeks ago, and boy, my mind would just jump to, and I'm watching not for it to jump, but it would just really jump into the past as I drove in and started seeing, just my hometown. Now last week I did it, and it was weakened. It wasn't so strong.
You mean identifications with your hometown?
Yeah, very much with the past. See, it just come like, and I couldn't stop it. I was observing because I'm driving. I'm trying to be very aware that I'm driving and everything, but it just come in just heavy. It wasn't painful. I didn't feel them. But it was just
okay.
Really jumping.
Okay, you saw it at least, Dorothy.
Yeah,
Loud and clear,
a
please.
few weeks ago, the question was asked how you could give yourself a boost in the work, so to speak. And you said to be able to take more.
Right.
Then this is one of the ways to be able to take more.
Right. I wish I could go around the room personally, but I can't because none of you would come back tomorrow.
Try, yeah.
Only the ones that they try.
You will love me tonight, but you know why? Because you'll think that I'm bawling you out. I know you don't exist. I'm not bawling you out. There's nobody there. There's just a big mess sitting there. What shameful things are you hiding? Huh? Where do you not want to get found out? Did you have your hand up for something, Joe? Oh, I guess. Yeah.
These emotional storms, like the rage he mentioned, or whichever emotion it is that we go through, if we had not, the thoughts come in our mind one after another.
Okay.
Okay, the thought
Okay.
blooms and then it fades.
Oh, okay.
Now, the emotions, are they doing the same?
They're allies, as we said. They'll go right along with it. And they'll try to, for example, a thought of feeling guilty over hurting someone, the feeling will rise up there too. And you mustn't go along with either one of them. They're evil allies in that. You remember, when you see these thoughts, remember, you're not to do a thing with them. If you do something with them, you'll keep them going. And the object of this experiment, this work project, is to see them come up, and you are so detached from them, so unidentified with them, that they are able to pass away. A thought comes up, sex, the word sex comes in your mind. Now that can go in 10,000 directions, can it? With a lot of emotion, sex being a very emotional thing. Don't you identify with it. Let it fade out. Don't grab it. Say sex is good, bad, mysterious, or whatever. Don't comment on what you see. The minute you comment, it's got you. You've got the flow of mechanical thought going. The object is to see it and drop it. See it and drop it. See it and drop it. Let me ask you a question. Are you weaklings here who submit to the teacher's discipline? Are you weaklings because you have no intelligence and decisiveness of your own? Why do you submit to the tyranny of that man up front? Why don't you tell him off? What I'm saying is, are you what people describe you as being, those who go away? You want Big Papa, and you're willing to sacrifice your integrity in order to sit here and listen to insults, perhaps? Do you see what I'm getting at? No? No? Huh? There's anyone who sees what I'm getting at? Joan, tell me what I'm getting at.
All right. People who come once or observe what goes on very casually, and it did happen within the last 2 weeks. People who don't understand what's going on will say to one of us, well, why do you let him speak to you that way? Why do you let him tell you what to do or tell you what not to do? Why don't you do what you want to do? And it might have even happened that the people there would think that you were arrogant, egotistic, and that we were weaklings for listening to you and doing what you said. And I would say you have to come to this class for a very long time to get a feeling that this is right, a real feeling. And come because when Vernon says so, it's so, not because we sit at Vernon's feet and worship and adore, but because we have had the experience of knowing that Vernon knows.
All right.
I can get very emotional about it. I can go on, but I think...
No, I'll let you go on.
Okay. Whatever I say is from my own experience.
Yeah.
That I know you know. And I know you know what's wrong with me where I don't know and where quite often I don't want to know. And I know that when you are seemingly harsh with me, it's the only way you're going to get through my stubborn, thick walls. And something in me will get angry, will scream, may want to fight back, but I know you're right. And I also know that you, by giving me certain things to do that I could never make myself do, I can crack through some of the wrongness that I've suffered from all my life.
Okay. To summarize, we have to come here to get rid of a false sense of independence. Subject our false sense of independence and intelligence and of knowing the answers, subject that to the challenge of this class so that we can become truly independent. You understand, don't you, from your own experience and from other people that you've observed, that when egotists, liars, which we all are to one degree or another, but when new people come to this class and they are challenged, their false independence is challenged, they're going to get mad, they're going to accuse, they're going to go out here sour and start their own dumb group, some of them. And can you think of anyone with less of a conscience than someone who really hates the truth, starting a study group to snare other people and make them the devils that they are? It happens all the time. All right, what are you smiling at, Leland?
Gurdjieff's name for these study groups was the Shasher Masher Workshop.
I would guess that to the degree these people have tremendous egotism, to that degree they will accuse you of the same thing. To the degree they want to dominate others, they will accuse you of the same thing. There's no understanding, in other words.
It's called projection, isn't it?
Projection, yeah.
Right.
And because in looking back now, I see that those that accused you the most were accusing you of what was wrong with them.
So a person can't come to this class unprepared.
You can't come to this class unprepared, is that what you said?
Yeah.
Explain that.
You got to see something's wrong in the world and in your thinking.
Wow, that's good, yes. Our preparation is to see what a mess we are. All right, the people who attended last night, as many of you know, were given a discipline instruction to be here this morning at 9 o'clock. Those who failed to do so were not capable of obeying even a simple instruction. Now, how do you expect to obey and find higher truths? Some of them might have had good reasons, others did not. We think we're capable of climbing the mountain, and we don't even know where the mountain is. We're still out in the desert, wandering around, not even knowing where the direction of the mountain. You have to get to the base of the mountain just to begin with. But we're also sick. We think we're not only climbing, maybe some of us are at the top of the mountain. And we even explain the view out there, emotionally. The wonderful light that came down into the night last night. When I hear that, I groan. And I say goodbye. Save me saying it later. All right. What was the project, Alicia?
The project was to sit quietly by yourself and watch your thoughts. And let go of your thoughts. Don't hang on.
What's your report?
Well, I work awful hard. It seems to some thoughts that come back and back. But once I remember what this project was, then I was try to control my thoughts. Because then I was aware of the project.
You tried to control your thoughts?
Yes. The
Well,
minute I was aware of the project, then immediately I started trying to control them.
all right. You understand the assignment was not to control, but simply to see them and let them go. Jim?
Yeah, also became very aware of noises. The clock all of a sudden became as if it was a big band. I could hear myself breathing. I could hear the cars, and
That's right.
you know, everything seemed to be amplified.
That's right. You become aware of everything. But you don't have to be distracted by them. You can be aware of something without being distracted by it. Rod, report.
I haven't done it yet.
Rudy, report.
I noticed that I would get caught by whatever came up, and I would go for a while, then all of a sudden I would snap out of it, and I said, well, and before I know it, I was again on another trip. But I could not observe it coming, as you said. I could snap it off, but I couldn't observe it coming and going.
All right. Volunteer report.
I noticed that all of the thoughts either were concerned with the past, like the night before, or the future, like this afternoon, like, what am I going to do with myself? That's something to keep me busy. But there really wasn't one practical thought in the bunch.
I notice when I sit like that and try to watch the thoughts, they're much slower in coming. And like Jim said, everything seems quite amplified. And the thoughts seem to come much slower because I'm ready to pounce on them. But I also notice that they tend to be little nagging thoughts sometimes about things I have to do or that I've put off doing. I tend to nag at myself.
Who? Alan.
I seemed to be distracted by my efforts to do the exercise. I kept thinking about trying to watch my thoughts instead of doing it. I noticed there was quite a bit of tension and nervousness, I was not able to relax.
Yes. Hear what he said? He said he was thinking about doing it, but not doing it. There's a big difference, isn't there? Ah, how many hands? How many did not do the project at all? Oh, dear Ron. The only one. Report.
Same as Alan, I thought more about doing it. But it seemed to me, in some instances, that I didn't know I had thought a thought until after I had thought it.
Yeah.
Which was a bit strange. I didn't understand that.
Because you went into memory on it. When you're thinking, you don't know what you're thinking. Right? When you're thinking, you don't know what you're thinking. You're thinking but don't know it because you are the whole business of that thought. After you remember, oh, I thought about, I'll tell you what one of my thoughts was, whatever it stands for, pine, like pine tree. Thought came up, some association somewhere. Go ahead, Connie. Yes, that's it.
Well, that, and it seemed at one point I was thinking about watching my thoughts. I was thinking about working on it. And at the same time, I was thinking about that. It seemed like there was another thought which I had, which I didn't catch until after I had it. It was almost simultaneously. I didn't.
All right. Remember, know badly how badly you did it or how much you misunderstand it. This is very valuable. Just stick with it. That's all that's required. Stick with it.
I got caught up in thinking about what was going on here and trying to connect myself with some of the things that you were saying. And I'd just go into from one thing to another. Then I'd wonder, in other words, I got caught in it and didn't.
It took you over?
Right.
Right. We're trying to prevent that, are we not?
So I took it a very good, the way you said it is a very good description of self-observation, impartial self-observation. And I thought that you put it in very good words. I've been doing that for 3 years, that project.
Okay.
I noticed at the beginning, I always notice my breathing, which drops the petty thoughts away. Bigger thoughts seem to come in.
Bigger thoughts.
Well, why are you here on earth? The petty thoughts seem to drop away.
Right.
And then eventually I become identified.
Impy thoughts fall away, right? Leland. Oh.
Yes, no, I did notice two special things. First of all, that all of these self-referenced thoughts were exceedingly crushing in nature. That is, as if I were being enclosed, and then as if the enclosure were crushing, like someone were standing on your chest or some such thing. That is this impression that it was an unpleasant thing that was going on. That all is running through my head about the things that are currently threatening what I call my existence. And another thing, more valuable perhaps, or let's say along the same line, that I am not responsible for this mess. This mess, all of these self-referenced thoughts that are going on, are going on independent of what I really am. That's simply there, and I refuse to accept responsibility for them. Period. I am not the mess. In some sense, of course, I am, because I'm attached to them, or they would go away. But I both am and am not.
Quite right. Yes, Alan.
I think that's very important. I think it's the presence of thought in us that gives us the idea that we are somebody doing something, and that we're responsible for the mess.
That's good. The identification that I am the doer is very hard to break, because that's the death of me, the death of you. Jean.
I thought more about it. I thought all the time about it, but I noticed that then when I would think more about it, these other thoughts would sort of disappear, but there was a constant line of chatter. It's not just a thought. There's all these different levels of things very subtly going on.
Right. Chatter. Yeah.
I've got one in that after a while, the thoughts seem to just slow down and die, and it appears to be silence, and then then I observe that when I think that I'm not thinking, I'm thinking. And I tried not, and I just observed that I couldn't hold not thinking, stopping time.
I think for the first time I actually got bored with my own thoughts.
Bored.
Mm-hmm.
That's very, very important to be bored with your own thoughts. Let me give you another project for the rest of your student days. Anytime you make a comment in this class or ask a question, the minute you're through, turn your attention back to yourself and say, "What did I just say?" The rest of us can judge, right judgment, toward your question or comment much better than you can, because you're identified with your own words, your own needs to get some pressure out or impress us, whatever. The rest of us can see that better than the individual can. Why did I say what I just said? And some of you, not all, must listen to the tone of your voice. The following people should listen to the tone of their voice: Dorothy, Leland, Dauphine. I have to look around here a little bit. Bob. Because the tone of your voice, and others to a degree maybe, the tone of your voice indicates lack of naturalness. You have to see it for yourself.
What was the end of that? What did I just say? The end of that.
What did I just say? Turn your attention back. Immediately you've stopped talking. You see, the talking is the active part. Nurture's right. Now you go to the passive part of listening. What did I just say? You'll find some astonishing things out about yourself. And a lot of them won't be very pleasant. And someday, some happy, bright, cheerful day, some of you will see look, Sally, give me an estimate. Just pull an estimate out of the air. How many times we've talked about unconscious blabbermouthery? Just pull a figure out of the air.
Oh gosh, I see about at least 50 times.
30? Is that all you heard?
1,500 times since I've been here.
That's sitting a little closer, 1,500 times. It's blabbermouthery, has been mentioned 1,500 times. Someday, if you're listening to yourself, you will see blabbermouthery. And I've bawled both Leland, or pointed out, both Leland and Joan about it lately. They can't come to an end of a sentence. And they've both become a little conscious of it because they both apologize lately. Say it and shut up. And when you shut up, you'll see old blabbermouthery wanting to continue. Stop yourself right in the middle of your brilliant lecture. It'll give you a shock. Report.
I'm beginning to notice, even with people in this class, sometimes I will go up to someone, and very recently it happened where the person turned away and I knew they couldn't be bothered listening. You can see it. You can detect the little things. They don't even know they're doing it.
That's right.
And you just quietly walk away. Right.
Do you feel rejected, Sally?
It's very interesting.
It's valuable, isn't it? All right, I've told you, watch their faces when you're telling them about your great life.
Not only their faces, but even their movement. They will turn, instead of facing you, they'll turn away. And you know this is the body language telling you, you might as well trot off.
I did that with Sally this morning. Or last night.
Also, watch the ways, and then we'll get to your friend. Watch the ways in which people pretend they're listening to you. They're looking at you, they'll nod. Those are the familiar ones, but there are some very tricky ones. For example, you're talking to me, and there's a cookie over there. All right, I really want the cookie, but I don't want you to know that I prefer the cookie to your blabbermouthery. So I'll continue to look, and as if this was the casual thing. This is the cookie I really want. Fred.
No, it seemed like when I did that last night for 10 minutes.
Did what?
What, the project.
Okay.
Oh.
Well, let's be specific here.
Okay. I did it for 10 minutes. I just sat in my room. And it seemed like for the first 5 minutes that I didn't have any thoughts. And I think what was happening when I was sitting there trying to watch my thoughts, part of me wouldn't let me do it.
You couldn't see them because there were so many of them. That's right.
Well, then I noticed the last 5 minutes, I did see a few. But it wasn't like other times when I can just occasionally break it and look and see that it's going.
If you're huddled right in the middle of the forest, you don't see the forest, do you? You have to look up first, and then you see this tree, that tree. Then you climb one tree and get way up, and you see the whole forest. Report. Randy.
My impression was the thoughts seemed to come so involuntarily. They just come.
Sure.
And another thing, I noticed a lot of my thoughts have been replaced by the ideas presented here. And it was only when those thoughts came that I recognized them, remembered the project, and was able to remember that, to break it, and was able to see that I had been asleep for many series of thoughts.
One value of this, of course, is for us to realize much more deeply that we are not our own thoughts. You're not your own thoughts at all. You're not that hateful thought. You're not that loving thought. That is a thought. A thought is a thought, and it's in time, and it comes to an end. But we want to perpetuate the thoughts, as I explained last night. We want to perpetuate the thought of either being a persecuted person or a loved person, for example. Perpetuate the thought in order to perpetuate the so-called independent entity here. Because I don't want to die to my so-called self.
When you're thinking about truth, is that the same thing?
You can think right thoughts, of course you can, but don't identify with the thoughts. Don't identify with the thoughts. You're above truthful thoughts even.
In other words, if I say, link myself, if I see something in myself, like being a blabbermouth, for instance.
Okay.
And I say, I just got through talking, and I'm talking right now, and I'm wondering if I'm a blabbermouth. Okay, that's a thought. Do I just drop that thought?
Yes, drop the thought. You are not a blabbermouth. You're taken over by blabbermouthery. Your real nature is not a blabbermouth. Your real nature doesn't suffer from blabbermouthery. Mechanical forces that have taken us all over. But we identify with them and therefore suffer from them.
Since Joe is new, we've said many times that we have no particular model of behavior here. That is, a shut-mouthery is not our model of behavior, nor certainly is blabbermouthery what everybody is supposed to conform to. But we're supposed to see what we're doing and see if it has any efficiency or purpose.
You stopped.
And
all right. All right.
I will not say one other word, except.
Oh, can I go on now?
Well.
All right, here we go. We're talking about blabbermouthery. Great. Now let's talk about shut-moutheries. Who are the shut-moutheries in this group?
It used to be.
Not you, Chuck.
Where's when?
Where doesn't count, used to be. Look at it right now.
Did I embarrass someone?
Yeah, you may embarrass
Yeah,
somebody.
let me see your hand.
Both of them?
Yeah.
Both of them.
All right, shut-moutherers should be blabbermoutherers, so as to see your shut-moutherers. Dorothy, tentatively? Huh? How about that?
Vernon, I have become totally confused as to my relationship with this group. I used to think I knew what it was. Now I really feel confused.
Oh, are you thinking about it?
Lately, yes.
That's your problem. Right? Do you really think you can solve anything by thinking about it? You can't solve a thing. And you know it because you've come to the end of the dead-end road 50 million times since you tried to solve your problems by thinking about it. You can only solve problems on the everyday level by thinking about it. You got a flat tire? I think I must put on a fresh tire. Problem is solved. But any thought that has I connected with it is always self-defeating. You can get nowhere. All right, why don't you stop thinking about it and try to rise above the tree, all these 10,000 trees in the forest, rise above it so that the problem is solved for you when you cease to be you who wants to think about it, solve it on your level in order to keep you going. There's no way to solve anything but to give up trying to solve it. I can't solve a thing. I can only get myself into a mess and keep the mess going. Now look at the things that are connected, the wrong things that are connected with thinking. Arguing, fickleness, changing your mind every few minutes. Thinking you've got it made, elated 1 minute, and then you crash the next. Why don't you have, and me have, the courage to simply give up trying to solve the self problem by thinking about it? All you can do is stop thinking about it, which is the same as stop thinking about yourself. Then you'll know how to relate properly with everyone in this room, everyone regardless of what they are like. That's really what you want. What you want is for Dorothy to be 100% in right relationship with Dorothy. That's really what you don't care about. You really don't. And you don't have to. You should be concerned with having a right relationship with yourself. When you do that, the problem with everyone here is solved, regardless of what they are, how they behave, whether they love you or hate you or whatever. You have no problem with it. Don't you know, look, way down deep inside what we really want, I'm saying what we really want is peace of mind. That's really what we want. Not to find someone who will give me peace of mind, because we've tried that and it never works. Or get this or get rid of that. That never works. We want to be in self-command. Same thing as peace of mind. And where are you going to do that? Working right here. You can't figure it out at all. I can't figure it out. Trying to figure it out has only got us deeper into the jungle. Watch how your relationship change with everyone in this room as you do what is right. Your relationship will change with everyone in this room. It'll be a free relationship, regardless of them. Who? Rudy?
Understanding has no thinking at all, Vernon?
On the elementary level it does. You understand it's good to be here, do you not? But trying to figure it out where there's an I involved. Where Rudy is involved, it's wrong thinking. Where Rudy is involved, it's wrong thinking.
So how about, is there a state where you don't think at all, but...
No. What have you learned from the very beginning? You alternate in thinking and higher understanding.
Right.
I vow some of you don't know your ABCs, or you wouldn't ask these questions, or you forget them so easily. Now I know that we have many, many hard things to remember, so we're going to have to work much harder. Jim, then we'll take a break.
Yeah. What has amazed me in observing the group and noticing that when someone leaves, it's as if they were never here. And I thought, well, gee, when we were in Hawaii, I guess people would miss us, but... and then I come back, and then I see people come and go, and I thought, when they go, it's as if it's not important.
That's right.
That's right.
And it's, the individual is nothing. It's kind of amazing to observe it.
See how things change you?
Yeah.
Sally.
That's so true, because when people leave, you don't miss them. There's something much bigger to put your attention on than people who have left.
All right. Quote from the New Testament. Something came up among the disciples. Christ said, "What is that to thee? Follow thou me." At a certain point, as you are driving out of the jungle in your car, we'll change the illustration, you usually walk, but you can ride this time. You're in your car, driving out of the immense jungle, the Amazon jungle. And it seems endless, and there's a log blocking there, and a river blocking there, and a bush blocking there. But you manage to go through and get this scratched by the bushes and all that. You keep going. If you really keep going, there will very definitely be a point where, without you doing anything deliberate about it except traveling, you become aware that the jungle is just a little different than what it was before. Just a little less shrubbery blocking away. The river just a little less wide. Keep going. When you get that, you know you're going in the right direction. You keep going on and on and on. And it's been dark up until now because enormous trees, and they even block the sunlight. The time you become aware that you can actually see the road ahead fairly clear. Not too much, but maybe 10 yards ahead. And you keep going, keep going. Pretty soon you know absolutely that all you have to do for the rest of your life is keep going in the direction you're now going. You know it's right because you are changing, because you're giving you up. I will guarantee you, you don't get many guarantees, I'll give you this one. I'll guarantee you if you keep working at this, submitting to discipline, gradually, you will see for yourself. Me telling you doesn't do you any good at all. You'll see for yourself that you can die to yourself while being a living human being and find God, truth, reality right here in this life. And your sorrows and miseries and confusions will fade away every mile you take out in the right direction. This is real. This is why anybody who's in despair has to stick with it. Unless you come all the time to every meeting, you're not going to get it. Comments, questions?
Sometimes in class I seem to be in a state that is very dull and very heavy, and it's, I think maybe stunned would be a good way to describe it. It's almost as though I'm trying to listen to you while I'm sitting underwater. It's just not getting through, and I don't understand it.
Do you sense the rightness of it at the same time?
The rightness of what you're saying?
Yeah. Isn't there a small sensing of the rightness of it?
At the same time I have this stunned state?
Yes.
Yes, I want to hear.
Yes.
Is that a resistance of some kind within me?
Now, the rightness is right.
Of the other thing?
Yes, resistance. You don't want to give up being Alan.
Precious
It's
Alan.
very precious to you to be Alan, yeah. Isn't it a mess, though?
Yeah.
Isn't it a mess being Alan?
Yes.
Yeah. Not Leland, of course. Rod.
That's what Alan says, absolutely right. I can be like last night. I can be very excited and at the same time very upset. But nevertheless, and as soon as I notice that, it is encouraging because it means I'm getting something. You know, I'm seeing that I'm rejecting it, but I also see that I'm getting excited from it.
All right. Open comments, reports or anything. Bob, Jean.
I sort of identified with Dorothy's first statement this morning, in which she said she tried the project and she went into yesterday and tomorrow. I found the same variety of thoughts arising. Mine would go back even further and even further into the future than what she mentioned yesterday and tomorrow. But mine would go further. Now this perpetuating the I seems to be tangled up with all these thoughts that are in the past and in the future. Seems to be I want to perpetuate, Rob.
Yeah, that's right. The I can't live anywhere but in past and future. It can't live now. The I can't live now. Only understanding can live right now. Now, capital N. Jean, then.
What Alan said reminded me of the woman I talked to at the church in Las Vegas when I asked her, I told her since she had been there, had the background, that she should follow through and come on Sunday, that it would be interesting for her to follow through. And when I talked to her, I could see, it looked like she had a veil on. I could see my words bouncing off.
Right.
She kind of heard them in a dull way, but what was interesting then to me is she said, oh, well, my daughter picks me up, and when she ran her routine down. Now she couldn't, this cloud over her, this veil of this sleeping, she couldn't break a physical habit, an emotional habit. And I
Oh,
was
excuse
saying
me.
Something
Excuse me.
to change the subject about the relationship in class or with other people is not reacting. Understanding is not reacting.
All right.
At one time, maybe to feel bad if somebody does something, but rather seeing why they are doing it at the same time that you watch your reaction or what it is or isn't.
Mm-hmm.
Which is responsibility for yourself, and then you're responsible for others in an odd way.
All right. Without naming names, how many of you dislike someone else in this class? Without naming names, of course.
Not today.
Is it necessary to understand why and go back into your, say, your childhood and say, well, my father was this way and therefore I can understand why I'm like I am?
If you're talking about the psychological technique of dredging into your past simply because it keeps you self-centered, no. If we can be aware of those things and then not identify with them. See, psychiatrists tell you, that's what they lead you into, of course, never knowing that that patient is simply hardening his egotism, even hardening his hatred for his parents, because he identifies with the thoughts, I hate my parents. But psychiatrists themselves are equally sick, so they don't know that. Forget it. See anything that you see, drop it. What was the purpose of thought watching? To see them and to drop them. Where did I see a hand, or didn't I? By the way, let's get it over with. As a matter of right discipline, everyone here in this room is instructed to be here tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. No excuses, except the good excuses.
I have just two comments. Number one was I was very observant of the minister at the church, of his mechanical smile. He had this fixed expression on his face at all the time. It didn't seem to change.
Yes.
And then the second one is in what Joe was just saying. It's useless to go back into the past, but I've had a situation where my son asked me about something, about my past, and I didn't want to go into, I don't know why, whether it would be, some of my experiences would be beneficial to him one way or the other. And there was a reluctance for me to do it.
Go into your past about in churches and things like that?
Well, yes, and then even in my childhood.
Would be nothing matter with a light review of it.
Yeah.
Nothing matter with that. But you know, let me give you a great work project. You inspired it. Every time you state a problem, also state the correction. For example, your son asked you when you were years ago as a boy, and you could say something like, well, when I was your age, boy, I sure didn't understand life very well. I was pretty mixed up. I wanted to be a policeman, and then I changed. I want to be a sea captain. I was really confused. But you know, I've been, I've been going out to these meetings, and I've been reading books, and I've been working on them. I'm really beginning to change things. I'm the first man to admit, son, that I was a very mixed up human being. And it took me a long, hard time to even admit I was mixed up. But I'm really, and I'm telling you the honest truth, I'm beginning to understand what life is all about, what God is all about, what death is all about, what I am all about. Always add a correction. When you state how bad things were, very honestly add a correction, even to saying, but I really am earnestly trying to clarify myself.
Yes. Let me comment further
Sure.
on that. One time my daughter came to the class, and I don't think Zena was picking up her mother. And on the way back from the class, she asked me, well, what have you observed? How have you changed? And I said, well, for one thing, that now when I look back, that I would not have gone to Hawaii knowing what I know now. We had come here for a year, and I mentioned to you about why we felt we had to move because of the climate, so on, whatever. You never said one way or the other. You said, well, if you feel you have to, fine. I said to her that, see, going there was running. It's as if something just took me there outside of myself. I said, well, the only thing that I realize now, the only thing that I can do is to change myself. I can't do anything for Davy. Nothing. There is no outside act in any shape, way, or form that will help anyone.
That's right. That's right. Get understanding regardless of what it costs you. Get understanding regardless of what it costs you. We're so afraid that it's going to cost us something real. It's going to cost us our delusions, which are making us suffer. Look, and I'll select Ernesto. Just an example. You look around at your relatives, your friends, wife, children, your brother, your uncle, people you work with. Look at their eyes. Don't you see suffering, confused human beings? Not only that, suffering, confused human beings who are closed to anything real. All they can talk about is the football game. Dorothy, excuse me.
There was one incident at those talks in Las Vegas that I'd like to share with
Please
you.
do.
Which was on Saturday morning, and we met in the chapel, I guess. And I had this cup of water, and then the minister announced, please don't bring your cups in here, don't drink any coffee in here and everything. And I could see in myself immediately the thought, well, I'm a special case, right? I have this problem, I have to drink a lot of water. Plus immediately, you can't tell me what to do. You know, the hostility, I mentally told him off, and then I could see when we went out for the break or wherever it was, that there was some small part that wanted to explain to him why I had the water in his chapel, and this whole thing that I put myself through, from one little thing that probably the rest of you didn't even notice, didn't have even thought about since. All centered around me.
Right. You unnecessarily put yourself into a trying situation, did you? Unnecessarily.
With this exercise, what we were given yesterday, I observed that it's very difficult for me to watch my thoughts. I always caught them in memory. I always caught them just a little behind when they went through. And I want to ask two questions on this. Is it possible to separate myself from thinking and just sort of stand apart and see it go through?
Well, how long have you been coming to these classes?
2 years.
I almost would vow the first sentence you heard in this class is, it is possible to separate yourself from your thoughts and watch them.
I couldn't do it yesterday.
Lots of things are possible that you can't do yet.